evening. Start this week's episode, as we do every week, with this. Try this at home. Try this at home. Hey. Try this at home. And we're going to try an experiment called the stuck ring finger. Okay, stuck ring finger. So we can do this straight away all together. What I want you to do is put your hands together like this. Line up your fingers like that. And I want you to fold your middle finger over. So I've got my fingers all lined up. And all I'm going to do is fold my middle fingers over. And I want you to follow these instructions very closely. Don't jump ahead and think you're going to second guess anything here, okay? So what I want you to do is, okay, hands like this. Fold your middle finger over. And then I want you to pull your thumb apart. Can you do that? Okay, can you do your pointer finger, your index finger? Yeah. This bit I don't want you to jump ahead. I want you to go to your little finger. Can you pull your little finger apart just there? Okay. Now hands, and I'll put my arms close together like this. Can you pull your ring finger apart? I can't do mine. I can do my thumb, my index finger, my little finger, but I can't move my ring finger. So what's that? Why is that really difficult to do? Some people can move it a little bit, but literally it's stuck together. I cannot move it at all. I cannot separate them. So what is happening here? What is the science and the physiology and the anatomy behind what's going on here? Well, we have to look at some of the muscles and tendons in the back of our hand, okay? So this muscle here, the extensor digitorum, we're going to learn some Latin tonight, okay? Is this muscle kind of down here? Okay, there's a muscle in the back of your arm, okay? And extending your fingers is this. We're going to extend them up. This is flex, this is extend, so we're extending our fingers. So that Latin name there is extensor, extending, digitorum, digits, we're going to extend our digits, okay? Now this muscle, okay, has tendons running from it that go to all four of our fingers, okay? Every one of our fingers has a tendon going down to that muscle. So that muscle can actually open all of those fingers and pull them up, okay? But there are some special little kind of ties between those tendons across the back of our knuckles, okay? So if we go and have a look at this picture, I've been drawing on myself today. I've kind of drawn on there the tendons kind of going down the back of my hand. And those lines I've drawn horizontally, those are some special kind of tendons that interlink those vertical tendons. Okay, they kind of tie them together and keep them in place. Right, they kind of lock them in place. And they're called, I'm going to tell you right now what they're called, the jugular tendinium. That's a lovely name, isn't it? The jugular tendinium. And these are the connections across here. And what happens is, when you fold this middle finger over, okay, and we kind of lock it in place, those kind of tendons going across lock in place, and they kind of fix that tendon, these two tendons between my ring finger and my middle finger in place. So when we go to try and open our hands, our fingers, like we did in that experiment, moving our fingers apart like that, these two here, the middle finger and ring finger, can't move very well because as we fold this one over, it ties this one in place. So why can we move our index finger and our little finger? Well, they have two extra tendons and extra muscle attachments that can also control their movements, okay? And these ones are called the extensor indicis or indicus. That's your index finger. So we have another muscle that can open that one and pull it backwards, okay? And then your little finger has another muscle called the extensor digiti minimi, basically extending your little finger So these two fingers, let's rock. I'm going to a rock concert after this actually. I'm going to see a band called the Wild Hearts. So that's quite appropriate. These two fingers have muscles that can pull them backwards separate. However, these two fingers, okay, only have one muscle that can pull them back on the back called the extensor digitorum, and they're locked together by this tendon. So they can never get kind of pulled back once one is locked into place. How about that? Do you like that? Lovely bit of physiology and anatomy in there. Lots of Latin as well. And if you look at any Latin words, it's always the case that you can kind of figure out what they mean and what part of the body and what it is they're kind of explaining eventually. It's pretty cool stuff, isn't it? So that's our episode, a little kind of snippet of try this at home. So let's go and have a look at our next section. And this tonight we're going to look at when medicine got it wrong. When medicine got it wrong. This is only a quick story tonight. So when medicine got it wrong, we're going to go back a couple of 100 years and we're going to look at something called trepanning. Trepanning. If you heard that word before, put it in the chat. Okay, trepanning. What is that all about? Well, it's to do with skulls and drills. This is not going to end nicely, I can tell you now. There's no gory pictures. There are some pictures of skulls, but there's no blood here, don't worry. So this is kind of a couple of 100 years ago, and doctors used to like drilling holes in skulls of their patients. Why would you do that? That's a really cool picture, that one. What about this one? This next one's really cool as well. Look at this. Lots of little holes, then we've got like one massive one. They've drilled around and taken a massive chunk out of the skull. If you are watching in the chat, put it in there. What do you think? Why do you think doctors would kind of want to drill a hole in someone's skull a couple 100 years ago? What do they think was going on? Well, I'm going to tell you. Obviously, we didn't know a lot about kind of mental health as we do now, and people, would get headaches like we do. Might have the medicines like we do now to help with headaches and migraines and things like that. So several 100 years ago, we used to thought things like mental health problems, like schizophrenia, maybe some quite serious mental health problems, and having headaches and migraines, they were caused by evil spirits trapped inside the body. So we thought if we drilled a hole in their head, those evil spirits would escape their mind. That's a bit crazy, I think. But again, we don't know what we don't know, do we? So they were only doing what they thought was right, but it's quite unbelievable. They used to drill a hole in someone's head because they thought it would release an evil spirit and hence relieve their headache or mental health issues. I don't know if we're doing that in the NHS, do you? Okay, so that's a little snippet of what was it? That was when medicine got it wrong. My mind has completely gone blank then for some reason. So this next one, this is a bit more of a juicier kind of little snippet here. We're going to have a look at how medical kit works tonight. How medical kit works. How medical kit works. And tonight's piece of medical kit, we're going to go really in depth on some serious physics, okay? Because we're going to have a look at how do X-rays work and how and where do they come from, okay? How do X-rays work? So what we need to do, there's two parts to this. We need to create the X-rays and then we need to fire them at someone's body, and how does that image get created? So we're going to look at how do we create the X-rays, because we don't just kind of, have them coming out of a light bulb kind of thing or like out of a plug socket. And we have to actually create these X-rays, okay? And I want you to think about this analogy. It's a bit like boiling a kettle. Inside a kettle you have a little kind of element at the bottom that heats up and that boils the water and we get steam coming out the kettle. I want you to think of the steam coming out of a kettle. They are electrons. Okay, you'll kind of see where this analogy is going in a minute, but think of it like this. An X-ray machine has got to produce lots and lots of electrons that it can fire at something. Okay, I'm going to explain what that is now. So what we've got here is kind of the inside of the X-ray kind of machine. We have on the left-hand side over here, we have a cathode. which is made of tungsten. And over here, we have the opposite to a cathode, we have an anode. And that is also made of tungsten. That's a metal. Right, and what we're going to do over here, we're going to heat this up by passing an electrical current through it. We're going to get it red hot, several thousand degrees, and it's going to go white hot. And when it gets really, really hot, it starts to fire off electrons. So this is the steam, if you like. So we've got to heat up the tungsten, it'll fire off electrons. Okay, if you heat up water, you get the steam. That's kind of the analogy we're looking at. And we're going to fire these electrons across a vacuum. So there's no air in this kind of tube, this thing we've got in our X-ray machine, at this piece of tungsten. So we've kind of got two pieces of tungsten facing each other. One's getting red hot over here, this one's getting red hot, firing electrons across, and they're going to smash into the other piece of tungsten. It's a bit like a car crash. So they're going to smash into this tungsten, these electrons, okay? And one of two things is going to happen. The first thing is these electrons are going to get deflected and bounced around by the nucleus of the tungsten atoms. We're going real deep in kind of physics and chemistry here, okay? I want you to think about this. If you're traveling really fast in one direction and then all of a sudden you kind of get bounced off in another direction, you're going to slow down a little bit. And this is what happens to these electrons. They're firing across really fast. They get bounced off a tungsten atom and they slow down and they change direction. And just that process of slowing down and decelerating releases energy in the form of an X-ray. Okay, an X-ray gets released when this happens. That's the first way we can make an X-ray. But there's a second way the X-rays are also produced, and it involves the tungsten atoms again. Okay, and it's a bit like playing snooker, this next bit. When two balls kind of hit each other, they bounce off and fly around the place. The same thing can happen with the electrons that surround and are within a tungsten atom. Okay, so these electrons are flying across towards the other tungsten atoms. Okay, these electrons are flying across and they hit another electron, and that electron gets bounced off in another direction, gets knocked out of where it lives. And electrons like to fill in gaps. So electrons from around those atoms start to jump into the gaps and fill in those little places where other electrons have been bounced off. And when that happens, when these electrons bounce and move to fill the spaces, they also release energy in the form of an X-ray. So all we're doing to create X-rays is firing electrons at other tungsten atoms, and they're either being deflected and bounced and slowed down, which releases an X-ray, or they're hitting other electrons out of their little kind of sphere or spectrum kind of around an atom, and other electrons jump into that spot and release energy in the form of an X-ray. Now, so we've got our X-rays. All we've got to do now is kind of bounce them towards the body. So what happens when they get to the body? We create amazing images like this. Okay, this image above is from my daughter when she was 2. She's 15 now. This X-ray was taken when she was 2 years old. We're going to look at some cool physiology in a minute. Okay, but if you look at this picture, there's 4 kind of shades. Okay, you can see there's a black area. I've kind of like put some red outlines there. You can see there's different shadings. So I kind of flick backwards and forwards between those images there. You can kind of see where those kind of different shades and densities are, okay? And I've kind of drawn some arrows on these ones here, look. So you've got the black space. Where it's black, that's where an X-ray has just flown through and hit the sensor. It'll turn it black, or it'll be picked up as black. So anything black on an X-ray is where an X-ray has just gone ping and hit the sensor. Anything white or grey or misted, an X-ray has been absorbed, or not as many X-rays have got through. And we're going to look at why there's a differences between all those different areas. So what we've got bone, which is quite a hard tissue, and then we've got softer tissue like muscle and body fat. So bone, X-rays pretty much won't go through, or very few X-rays will go through bone, and we'll look at that why in a moment, okay? So we don't get any kind of black on the sensor where that is. If you look back at this picture, where there's bone, that's the whitest part, isn't it? Okay? The whitest part on there is bone. So hardly any X-rays have got through to the sensor, so it comes up as white. However, some X-rays, or more X-rays, can get through our softer tissues like muscle and bone. So you can see there on my daughter's shoulder, Beatrice, there's like those little layers around her shoulder. You can see those there. And that's because the muscle and fat tissue is softer. And in fact, the difference is down to the types of atom that are in those tissues. So if you look at muscle over here, over there like that, muscle and soft tissue is mainly made of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, and they have really kind of small protons, nucleus. Okay, they have very few protons. You can see hydrogen's got 1, carbon's got 6, and oxygen's got 8 protons. Okay, now calcium in our bones, we've got lots of calcium in our bones. They also have lots of hydrogen and carbon and oxygen in them, but we have more minerals like calcium in our bones. Calcium have a much higher number of protons in their atoms. Okay, now because they've got a higher number of protons, they can absorb more of the X-rays. Think of them like being a bit bigger, if you like. The X-rays just can't get through. They kind of smash into those calcium atoms. They don't get through, and they don't hit the sensor, so it's not picked up. So our calcium in our bones absorbs more of those X-rays, so they don't hit the sensor, and it looks whiter. Okay, so that's why we get those different shades. Okay, if it's bright white, it's harder tissue. If it's more grey or misted, it's softer tissue. And if it's black, the X-ray has gone straight through. Now, can you spot 3 things on this X-ray? I'll give you a second just to have a quick look. What can you spot on here? There's 3 really cool things on this X-ray. One of them is really obvious. It's right here. It's a broken collarbone. She did this slipping down the stairs wearing a dress from Disneyland Paris that was a Belle Disney dress, and she slipped down the stairs, fell on a cabinet and broke a collarbone just there. My wife and her, she were in tears in the hospital. I was like, oh my God, can I take a picture of that? Okay, but you can also see some really cool things. If you look really closely, in her jaw, you can see her adult teeth that are formed. The buds of her adult teeth are formed in her jaw. And then over here on her shoulder, you can see her growth plate. That's her humerus, and it looks like that kind of ball bit there on top. Sits on top of the bone separately, but they're connected just by softer bone tissue. And that gap is the growth plate where her humerus would have grown from, or that from that end. It's pretty cool, isn't it, those 3 things? So that is how medical kits with X-rays. That's quite in depth, that one. So let's go and jump across to...
What a ride! What about? What are you looking at? What are you looking at?
What are you looking at? And we're going to go to the ultrasound machine again today. And this ultrasound machine is like a video recording. And I wanted to mention that anything that's black on this ultrasound, or solid black, is liquid. That's a clue. Okay, and the probe, the image you're seeing, is probably, the image is about that wide. Okay, so we're not looking at like a massive kind of space here. It's probably about 5 or 6 centimeters wide on the screen. Okay, let's play it. I'm going to see one definite black thing, and then I want you to see what happens. And I'll explain what I'm doing in this video as we go along. So you can see here, I want you to look where that arrow's moving, just at that kind of space. I'm going to take a deep breath here, and I kind of strain, and we see this other black circle appear. What is happening here? And it disappears. Okay, I'm going to bring my arrow on. Hang on, let's have a look. So this, we've got one circle here, that is liquid of some kind, and then we've got like this slither here. And all I'm doing is this. Like that, I'm just straining like I'm on the toilet having a massive poo. And we get this massive circle appear above us. What is that? What do you think that is? Well, I'll give the answer in 3, 2, 1. What you're looking at there are the blood vessels in my neck. And that first circle you see, this one right here, okay, that one right there, that is my carotid artery. That's taking oxygenated blood up to my brain, okay? And that is about the size of your little finger. So look at your little finger, that's about how big that is. That other blood vessel that appears, that is a vein. It is the jugular vein. So blood goes up the carotid artery into my brain, delivers the oxygen, picks up the carbon dioxide, drains out of my head, comes into the jugular vein, down and into my body. But when I take a deep breath and strain, like that, it creates pressure in my abdomen and the blood can't get past this point. So it's carried on coming round and it's filling up and it opens up that blood vessel, the jugular. And that's roughly, it's probably about a little bit bigger than your thumb, that one. So if you look at your little finger and your thumb, that's how big those blood vessels are. So that thing that appears, it's just like making the blood vessels pop up on the back of your hand, but I'm just doing it by holding my breath and opening that jugular up in the back and kind of the side of my neck there. Pretty cool, isn't it? So that's it for Monday Night Medicine this week. So that is this week's Monday Night Medicine. Thanks for watching. If you want to have any other things that appear in this show, just put them in the comments section anywhere. We'll see what we can do. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.